Okay, today we're going to tackle a really common idea in conversations about autism, this goal of unmasking. But what if I told you that's not really the point? We're going to explore why the real work isn't about taking off a mask, but about building something way more fundamental, a true sense of safety. All right, so first things first, let's make sure we're all on the same page. What is autistic masking? Well, it's this huge effort to hide or kind of suppress natural autistic traits. You can think of it like a form of social camouflage, a survival strategy for getting through a world that, honestly, often doesn't feel like it was built for you. So that leads to a pretty logical question, right? If masking is so exhausting, shouldn't the goal just be to stop doing it? To unmask? I mean, it seems so simple on the surface, but the real answer is a whole lot more complicated. And this quote right here, it just nails the new way of thinking about this. Unmasking itself is not the goal. Safety is. It's not about the act of taking off the mask. It's about creating the conditions, both inside yourself and in the world around you, where you don't need that mask to survive anymore. And here's where it gets really interesting, kind of paradoxical actually. When well-meaning people, clinicians, parents, friends, push for unmasking, they can accidentally create the exact same pressure that caused the masking to begin with. It just becomes another thing you're supposed to do, another performance. And the risks of getting this wrong, they're not small. We're talking about very real consequences. If you take away that protective layer before a person feels genuinely safe, it can backfire, big time. We're talking increased anxiety, shutdowns, burnout, and even pulling away from people altogether. So, to really get why safety has to come first, we need to shift our perspective. This isn't just a behavioral choice. It's about biology. It's about the nervous system. So let's dive into the science of it. You see, from a nervous system perspective, masking is a survival response. It's an adaptive strategy that kicks in when it senses a threat. So when social situations feel unpredictable, or when you've been misunderstood or even punished for just being yourself, your brain's number one job switches from be authentic to stay safe. And that mask, it becomes the shield. This right here just lays out the whole shift in thinking so perfectly. The old question was, how do we get this person to stop masking? But the new, much more powerful question is, what allows this person to feel safe enough that masking just becomes less necessary? See the difference? It's huge. So what this really does is it gives us a completely new destination for therapy. We're moving away from a goal of compliance, just looking or acting a certain way, and toward a goal of genuine, deep down, felt safety. And to get there, we really have to bust some common myths, like the idea that getting someone to stop stimming is automatically a win, when actually, those behaviors are often essential tools for self-regulation. Or there's the big one, assuming that if someone looks comfortable, they are comfortable, when on the inside, it can be absolutely exhausting. This whole safety-first approach follows a really clear, logical order. Think about it. You can't do deep self-reflection if your body is in fight-or-flight mode. You can't learn new skills if you don't feel safe enough to try and fail. And you definitely can't take in feedback if you don't feel connected to the person giving it. It's a roadmap that says your internal state comes first, always. So what does progress even look like with this new model? Well, it's not about checking off boxes on a behavioral chart. It's about seeing these small, organic signs that someone is starting to feel safer. It's that moment of spontaneity in a session, or when they finally feel able to say, hey, the lights are too bright for me. It's leaving a party and feeling just tired, not totally wiped out for 3 days. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in practice? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how you actually do this, how you put safety into practice. First off, you have to truly appreciate the sheer mental load of masking. It's not one thing. It's a constant juggling act. Imagine running like 10 different software programs in your brain at all times. You're monitoring social cues, suppressing stims, filtering out sensory overload all at once. It eats up so much mental energy, and that is a direct line to burnout. So here's what that change looks like in real-world goals. The old goal might have been make more eye contact. The new safety-based goal is figure out what sensory needs make eye contact hard. Instead of stop stimming, it's let's find more tools that help you regulate. The whole focus shifts from performing normalcy to building real skills for self-advocacy and well-being. And this is probably the most important takeaway. The goal shifts from appearing regulated on the outside to actually being regulated on the inside. One is a performance and the other is genuine well-being. They are not the same thing. And the language we use plays a massive role in all this. The words on the left, they feel like commands, right? They're about correction. But the words on the right, they're questions, they're invitations, they're collaborative. That simple switch in language can change the entire dynamic from one of judgment to one of partnership. Now, embracing a safety-first model doesn't mean we have to throw out all our existing tools. Not at all. It's about adapting them. We can still use things like CBT, but the focus becomes reducing distress, not enforcing conformity. We can bring in somatic tools to help the body itself feel safe and use executive function supports to lighten that heavy cognitive load we were just talking about. Okay, so let's zoom out. Why does all of this matter so much? What's the big deal about shifting from compliance to safety when we think about the long run? Because the long-term outcomes are just fundamentally different. When safety is the foundation, people experience less burnout. It's that simple. They learn how to advocate for themselves because they've finally been shown that their needs are valid. And this is what builds real, sustainable mental health, not just a performance that's bound to crumble. I love this quote because it just sums it all up so beautifully. Our job isn't to be a sculptor, chipping away at someone to make them fit a certain mold. It's to be more like a gardener, creating the right environment, the right conditions so they can grow into who they truly are without fear. And let's be really clear about something. Safety is not a soft goal. I know in a world that loves measurable data and behavioral checklists, it might sound that way. But it's not. It is the absolute bedrock. It's the concrete foundation that has to be poured before you can build anything else on top of it. And that brings us to the end of our explainer. So we'll leave you with this to think about. What is one small way you can create a little more safety, either for yourself or for someone else, in your environment today? Thanks for joining us.